working? Hi there, Jacqueline. Are you a student or a staff member? Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'm actually on leave, but I'm a student.
Well, very nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
How are you guys all doing down in Oakland? Is that right?
Well, I'm actually in Brazil right now, but yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to go into my last year and like do a stop motion project at home. I wasn't sure how that was gonna work out, so
That's fair. Granted, you could be
yeah,
animating at all hours of the day when it's at home. I mean, what
that's
better
true.
time to animate than 3 in the morning when no one else can sleep?
Lovely.
Well,
How are
how
you
is
guys doing
we're doing
up in
okay.
Oregon?
It's been a hell of a week and month for us, I really will say. Luckily, the fires have kind of calmed themselves a little bit. The smoke isn't nearly as bad, but coronavirus is still very much present. And I think a lot of people, especially with the season change, are starting to struggle a little bit with still being cooped up. But all in all, you know, it could be worse. So we're just trying to find the silver lining.
Yeah, I can imagine it's been tough. I mean, it's like 90 degrees every day here, so I mean,
Oof.
wearing a mask outside has been hell. But yeah.
Not a fan.
And thank you everybody for tuning in. We have Amy from LAIKA, and then Angela from LAIKA is going to be tuning in a few moments. But they're here today to talk to you guys about insider tips for applying for jobs, studios, what to do, what not to do, learn more about LAIKA, and all sorts of other things. So with that in mind, I will turn it over to Amy.
Oh, hello everybody. How y'all doing? Hopefully well. So this morning I am going to quickly go through this PowerPoint presentation that we have assembled for you guys just to go over some basic information about LAIKA Studios and some insider tips when it comes to submitting applications to studios like LAIKA. I'll try and be brief without talking too fast. I have a bit of a habit of doing that. So if you guys are able to see my screen, let me know. Are you guys able to see everything? Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will just dive straight in. Hello, my name is Amy Hurwitz, and I am the recruiting specialist at LAIKA. And joining us in a little bit will be Angela Geier, and she is the studio recruiter. And basically, we cover all positions within the studio, whether it's the entry-level runner positions all the way up to executive level development acquisitions manager. We really do everything in the studio. So we have a lot of insight in terms of what really helps when it comes to applying to studios. So just to give you a little bit of an introduction to the studio itself, if you're not very familiar, LAIKA is one of the only exclusively stop motion studios in the world. We made a big impression with ourselves when we came out with Coraline about 11 or 12 years ago, back in 2009, which is a movie that many of you probably have heard of. We also have released 4 movies since, including Paranorman, The Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, and most recently Missing Link, which came out last year. And as of 2020, we are celebrating 15 years of LAIKA Animation, which is very exciting. So some of you may already know about us as a group of innovators and creatives working together to create some of the most visually stunning hybrid animation films currently in the industry. But what you may not know is that we are also ultimate frisbeers, softball fans, barbecue enjoyers, t-shirt wearing cake aficionados. We're also doodlers, Halloween enthusiasts, crafters, and makers. We come from areas all over the world and all over the industry, and we are always excited to talk to young students and artists who are just embarking on their careers. And when it comes down to it, we are a team through and through. We work hard and we play hard together. We are an animation studio unlike any in this field, and we are constantly improving our working environment and prioritizing our employees to ensure they're able to produce the best work that they can. Oh, I hear an echo, sorry. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, which has really presented a lot of new challenges, but we've really innovated in a lot of ways to make sure that we're able to continue making films, even though things are a little bit weird right now. We also want everyone to get to know one another, given traditional studio function, not right now, considering a lot of the studio is closed, but we have set up a lot of opportunities for employees to explore areas outside of their own departments and their own roles. So we've set up studio tours, department showcases, and open houses for people who maybe don't know a lot about other parts of the pipeline. So they get a chance to meet people they wouldn't ordinarily get the chance to work directly with, or to learn about areas that could be of interest to them later down the path on their career. So now let's get to the juicy stuff. Some insider tips when applying to studios like LAIKA. Number one, make a good first impression. This doesn't just apply to your resume or your cover letter. It applies to your reels and your portfolios. You want to make sure that you're putting your best and most relevant work first to attract the attention of the recruiters and the people looking at your portfolios. We have just a few seconds at best to get through thousands of applications, so you really need to blow us away within the first 5 to 10 seconds of your submission. Number two, apply for positions that are in alignment with your skills and career goals. Applying to every single position listed on a career site is not a wise move, and it will not improve your chances of being seen by a recruiter. You need to be realistic about your given skills and what you're looking to pursue. You don't want to apply to roles that don't match your actual skills. That will actually be seen as a red flag, and you want to make sure that you're submitting to positions that are realistic given your actual skills and abilities. Number three, we're looking to fill a specific role at the studio for a specific film. So just because we don't feel it's a fit this time, that doesn't mean you won't be a potential fit for future projects. And remember, another big thing is that we are looking to fulfill the vision of the director. So you have to learn to be able to take criticism and to disassociate your personal feelings from your work, because if it's not a fit for this film, it might be a fit for another film, but you're still fulfilling the vision of the director. So you really have to learn to adapt to new styles and to take your work to the next level so that it feeds into the vision that we're looking to fulfill. Last for insider tips is do not keep applying to positions with the same portfolio year after year. We want to see the advancement that you're working on, the improvement in your skills, and we won't be able to see that if your portfolio doesn't reflect your latest work. Now, that's not to say you should include every single art project or work that you've ever done. If that's going to be a totally overwhelming portfolio or reel, that's not a wise move. You definitely want to put the most relevant and most applicable work at the beginning or at the start of your reels, but we want to see what you've been working on. So if you applied to a role 2 years ago and want to apply to another position now, if we see the exact same portfolio, we're going to wonder what you've been doing for the last 2 years and how your skills have grown, or if they haven't, which sometimes happens. So now, the juicy stuff, the do's and the don'ts. So to kind of summarize everything that we're talking about here, I'm going to go over the do's first. And the number one that I have is to have a LinkedIn and to regularly check it and update it. We do almost all of our sourcing for general positions kind of as a first pass through LinkedIn. And There's really no reason for you not to have a LinkedIn at this point. It's free, it's pretty easy to set up, and it's a great platform to grow your network. Another important element to that is actually going in and checking your LinkedIn on a regular basis. We have reached out to people, countless people through LinkedIn, and they just don't check their email, and they miss out on opportunities because they forget to check their LinkedIn, which is such a basic thing. So making sure that you have a LinkedIn and check it is a huge tip to help improve your chances of connecting with recruiters in the industry. Number 2 is to have a polished resume. The main thing really is remember to include your name on your resume and your cover letter. You would not believe the amount of times we have received nameless documents, especially cover letters, and it really just doesn't reflect well on your attention to detail. If we end up printing off resumes, which we often do, and there's no name on it, then sorry, you missed out. Really, like, if that's the one thing you take away, remember to put your name on your resume and your cover letter. When it comes to your documents, they should be clean, easy to interpret, and comprehensive. A simple resume is just fine. You don't want to make it too difficult for a recruiter or for someone looking at your work to have to find out information about you. You want to make it as easy as possible for them. Number 3, have a professional looking website. There are plenty of free resources available like Wix or Squarespace, and we really want to see that you're proud of your work and that you're presenting it in a professional manner. Having a URL makes it a lot easier to share your work with hiring managers and department heads. If you have 15 JPEG images labeled art project 1, 2, 3, etc., it is really difficult for us to share your work with people for further review. So having a simple URL makes it really easy to just share, and they can look at it in the way that it was intended to be viewed. Let's see, number 4, include process imagery and scale on your portfolios. It tells us so much information about the way you created things, the materials you used, the whole process to actually assembling whatever it is that you created. And it tells us a lot about who you are as an artist and what you're capable of doing. If you're working on a collaboration piece, please specifically label what elements you're responsible for. So that way we know exactly what it is that we're looking to evaluate and judge when it comes to the work that you're submitting. And number 5 for the do's, do your research on the companies that you're applying for, including the positions and the people that you may be speaking with if you're scheduled for an interview. You want to make sure you're coming to the table prepared. Simple as that. I know I'm moving quick, but I want to make sure that we have time for a Q&A. So quickly going through the don'ts. Going along the lines of portfolios, we really strongly suggest avoiding using programs like Instagram or Facebook as a professional portfolio. They are great networking tools to promote yourself as an artist, but they do not reflect a professional kind of vibe as a creator. You can use your Instagram to promote your website, but we definitely suggest having a legitimate website to showcase your work. Number 2, submitting applications for roles that are not a good fit is a big no-no. If you're a CG rigger, you should not be submitting applications to landscape artist positions. You want to make sure that you are taking your application seriously and submitting to roles that match your skills. Applying to every single position will really only just decrease your chances because we see that you have very little direction, or you're not thinking about how serious our time is when we're going through applications. So you want to make sure you're submitting for roles that align with your given skills. Number 3, don't be a jerk. Be nice to people, have a good attitude, be appreciative of the fact that, you know, you're given an opportunity ahead of thousands of other people if you're applying and you get a call back from us. Or even if you don't get a position, you can always say or send a quick email saying thank you for your consideration. That really goes a long way. We have gotten some of those angry emails from people who have probably been blacklisted because they didn't have a good attitude, and that's not going to reflect well for future consideration. So don't be a jerk. Just remember your manners and be nice. And number 4, and probably the most important, is do not give up. Just because you didn't get a position this time does not mean you're not going to get a position in the future. It's important to stay motivated, to continue working, and to continue challenging yourself as an artist. And if you get feedback, make sure you're taking that feedback seriously. You're incorporating those notes into your work, and you're understanding what it is that could help improve your skills as an artist, or even as a production manager, or any role within the studio realm, really. So those are the do's and don'ts. I know I breezed through those quickly, so hopefully you guys have some questions. But if you're looking to connect with us, here are the primary avenues. LAIKA.com/careers. That's where we post all of our jobs, or current openings, I should say. And we also have a pretty extensive FAQ on there. Highly recommend going through some of those FAQs to see if any of your questions are in there. We're also on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us. Myself or Angela, we're happy to stay connected. And if you have questions, you can email us at recruiting@laika.com. And once again, my name is Amy Hurwitz, and I believe Angela is on the call. And we'll jump into some questions now, if that sounds good.
All right, everybody. Feel free to start throwing questions into the chat. If you feel brave, you can unmute yourself, but don't hold back.
May I?
Hello.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Angela. So specifically for costume fabrication portfolios, what do you guys look for?
You want me to take this one?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we do get a lot of applications with people that do like cosplay and things like that. Unfortunately, that's just not transferable. It's very rarely transferable. What we need to see is a lot of process work, a lot of process photo. So we want to see the lining of your garments, and make sure, like, the sewing is even. We want to know if it's hand stitched versus machine stitched. If it's machine stitched, that's totally fine. But they do look for people with really great hand sewing skills and miniature hand sewing skills, especially. Also an understanding of like backings and making your garment animatable. So whether you use foil or use wire or some kind of like filament, whatever, be creative. I mean, the more creative you are with that, maybe you can give them some ideas. But mostly it's process, and the fit has to be good. I've seen a lot of people showing like hems that are undone or very uneven stitching, or collars that are like not even. If it's on a doll, make it, make even more process photos, because the dolls usually also aren't the kind of size and type of our garments. Don't try to get too complicated, a nice shirt that fits, or pants with little details. And then the last thing, because this is taking forever, is make sure that you can show scale. The buttons that you choose, the fabric that you choose is really, really important, because some of those patterns can be too big for the puppet or the doll it's on. And, how you choose to stitch those together to where it makes sense, where the patterns line up or not, just those little details. So that's the gist of it.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have some questions that are coming up in the chat for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
First one, outside of internships, does LAIKA have a trainee/apprenticeship program for recent grads?
We do host trainee positions. However, we don't have a specific trainee program. So typically our internships feed into a trainee program. So our internships are approximately 3 months. That leads into a traineeship, typically depending on the time of the production and available positions. And those are usually 6 months before they lead into further. Sorry?
That could be changing.
Oh, that could be changing as well.
Everybody.
So we do have trainee positions. You can check our career site to see if we have any of those available. I don't think we have any right now, but we do have entry-level
We're
positions
not a
for
training
sure.
ground. We're not a
Yeah.
training ground. It's a very competitive studio. So when we're looking for interns, we're hoping that we can move them into junior positions. We do hire junior positions. So, if you don't get an internship, keep working, keep building a portfolio, because we could have a junior position opening up that you could also fit into. So you don't necessarily have to have any professional industry experience to get a junior role either. But we just don't have the capacity to have training groups and training pods. Does that make sense? We hope that you get that experience in smaller studios and commercials and TV.
Cool. All right. So our next question, for regular positions, what are the opportunities available for 2D artists? What do you guys look for in those portfolios?
Angela, I'm going to let you speak to that. You're in 2D world right now.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I keep rubbing my nose because I'm like allergies. So I apologize. My nose itches really bad. So for 2D, right now we're doing a huge 2D kind of search. We look for very segmented 2D artists. So, and I'm sorry about the background noise. That's my puppy that's playing with a can right now. But we look for very segmented. So we look for 2D character designers, and the character designers are specifically just for design. And then we'll look for story artists. We'll look for 2D technical character artists that can do turnarounds, poses, expression sheets. We do have 2D animators as well. And sometimes we'll blend 2D animation with the storyboarding so that they help like with the in-betweens and things like that. So we do have a pretty robust 2D production pipeline. It's just very small teams. So again, that is ultra competitive. And you just have to know camera, acting, and have really good draftsmanship skills.
Cool. All right. So our next questions for you guys. Are there opportunities for visual development artists?
Oh, yeah. We typically host a VizDev internship every year when we host interns. COVID-19 has kind of interrupted things, but we have a small visual development department that includes our production designer, character designers, that also kind of bleeds into story, but that's its own separate department. But yes, we definitely have opportunities for VizDev. A lot of those skills are pretty general. We have people who have done props who have then moved into color. We have people who have done characters that are now working on costume design specifically. So we have a small team that have a lot of really high level skills that can do several things. So as Angela was saying, it's extremely competitive. It's probably one of the most popular internships that we host. We usually have between 800 applications to 1,000 per position, and that's just for one role. So it's very, very competitive, I have to say.
I have a quick, oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say for our VizDev, it's kind of broken up as well. So we have prop designers, we have environment designers, we have concept. So, if your specialty is more like the landscape and trees and things like that, then, by all means present that. Props, very stylized. You always want to make sure that they're not flat, put a lot of texture into them, put a lot of
dimension
turns for all your props and things. And then concept and visual development is kind of the same thing, I guess. Just really pay attention to your perspective and your composition. Composition is key at LAIKA.
So my question kind of jumps off that actually. So when you're doing a VizDev portfolio specifically for characters or sets and environments, is it more helpful to also showcase like 3D construction in those type of things because they'll be turned into puppets or real life models?
Okay. And that's why we emphasize like turns, right? Because you really want to make sure that you understand what the side profile, the back looks like, because a lot of those times the concept will be passed on to the art department, the landscape department, greens, and they'll be made into props. So that's their blueprint for being able to actually fabricate those things. If that's what you meant. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions just came up. This is a simple one. Do you guys use Blender at all?
But
Blender, not really.
no.
No, I mean, I think they have people that have used it, but that's not one of our main programs.
There we have it. Okay, when you guys are hiring storyboard artists, do you guys have applicants do a story test, or is the decision made based off of their portfolio?
We do story tests. And it usually works, we'll pay for the story test, and it's 40 hours. And you know, you're in touch with the head of story, and you will get notes and feedback.
Cool. So those are like all the questions in the chat right now. Does anybody feel brave enough to unmute themselves to ask a question?
Well, I have one other quick question about connecting with recruiters such as yourself. I've heard a bunch of different things from different studios, so I'm curious how it works at LAIKA. Do you guys recommend reaching out to recruiters like on LinkedIn? Is that something that's better? Okay. Yeah.
Just note that, you know, I have over 15,000 contacts on my LinkedIn. So I get a lot of people reaching out. I don't check it as often unless I'm really sourcing for something. So I do put my email on my LinkedIn. And if you can search for that, I think that's the best way. But if it's other recruiters, you know, sometimes they get back to you, sometimes they don't, sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth. But make it as I think my favorite, email in LinkedIn is, hi, I noticed that you don't have any of these openings, but I'm very interested. I'll look at the portfolio. If it's something that strikes me as like, oh, this is somebody to save, then I'll save it. I may not get back to you. I might just say thanks or something like that. But I will reach out. Like, I tag all of these things, you know, for years. And I am known to go back and go, oh, I remember that person or that portfolio. So
Don't take it personally if we don't respond.
yeah,
We're just busy.
it's really hard if we're not actively sourcing for that specific position or person.
What would be the do's and don'ts for those who are reaching to you personally, like directly through Gmail? Like, should we submit like a portfolio or an example image, or just like a quick email like, hey, I submitted an application?
The one thing I absolutely hate is somebody going, here's my resume, and then they just put a link. And it's like, hi, nice to meet you. You know, I get that all the time. Or you can tell if people are like spamming, you know, they put everybody in PCC. I also don't like that. Doesn't say that you want to work for me. You know, you're just trying to get a job. So the best thing is just like introduce yourself and say what you do. And please consider my portfolio for openings in the future. I may not respond, but I will respond in my mind and be like,
all right. I'm listening to some LAIKA recruiter talk right now.
what?
Someone left their microphone open.
And so I'll tag you, because I can tag all my emails of like what kind of position you are, and I have folders. It's a whole thing.
Another question real quick. Is there any disadvantages for those students who don't have any experience with animation, whether 3D or 2D or stop motion? Or
What do you mean?
because I don't have any experience at all with animation. I'm just an illustrator. At most I can do storyboards, but I've never done any single animation. I don't know if there's any disadvantages for those who apply.
No, we have positions for all kinds of people. All kinds of people. So, you know, if you do story, apply for story. If you don't do animation, don't apply for animation. You know, like apply for what you're skilled at. We get a lot of interns applying for absolutely every single position. So, you know, that kind of gets a little annoying because you're just seeing the same person over and over again, and they're not qualified, and we reject, and you're going to get a bunch of rejections. And it's just kind of like, did you read the job description? Do you really know your own skill set? You know, do you know what you're good at? And this is feature film. I mean, I don't want to be like all pompous or anything, but this is feature. This is the big leagues. So, you know, if you're not taking it seriously, if you don't know your skill set and where you stand compared to what you see on the screen, then maybe you need to add a little bit more to your portfolio or wait. You don't want to put something out there that someone's going to see and remember that's not like anywhere near what we're looking for, right? So you always want to just be very wary of that. You don't have to go directly into feature film. Lots of people start commercials and TV and little side projects and indies. I mean, I, as a recruiter, didn't start in feature film either. You know, you work your way up to that. So don't feel like this is the end all be all.
All right. We got another question that just popped up for you. It's a two-parter. I'm really curious what LAIKA's workflow looks like during the pandemic. Is animation possible at the moment on sound stages, or is there a different focus for the time being?
Animation is definitely, well, I mean, we're not animating right now because we're in pre-production, but luckily all of our stages are actually, they've always been wrapped in like curtains. So they're very, you know, solidified. Like there's a lot of social distancing with animation. You know, LAIKA goes beyond what even the COVID experts and CDC say. They have refitted our entire studio. They've added doors so people can go in one and out the other. They've given us no touch tools. They give us masks. We have automated temperature machines. I mean, they've gone above and beyond. So we have staggered starts, we have staggered lunches, we have a skeleton crew of exactly who we need in when we need them. And then the rest of the people that can work from home are working from home like this.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I do. Hi, me again. So Amy mentioned that if you're like if you're actually working at LAIKA, not like an intern, you get to look a little bit at what other people are doing. I'm curious, as an intern, like, for example, if I went into costume fabrication, would I be able to look at what the people in hair are doing or in sets, etc.?
We put blindfolds on you like the whole time. No, actually, I mean, even interns, we have a really great intern tour program. So all of the interns, when they come in, are set up to be able to visit every single production pipeline and department and have a tour. And so that they can understand where they are in the pipeline, who comes before and after, and what everybody else does and how it feeds into it. And also, especially to allow people who maybe didn't even know something existed, might pique their interest for the future. Just because you intern in costume doesn't mean that you have to stay in costume for the rest of your life. We have soft goods, it's very transferable. We have a lot of different positions that do have many transferable qualities, and we'd love to help people like kind of find their path and what they're really passionate about.
Did you have time for a couple more, or do you have to head out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about dropping off as well. Wi-Fi crapped out, but we're back.
Okay. So here at CCA, we have a very large international student base, and one question is, does LAIKA sponsor visas for international non-citizens?
Yes. We do a ton of visas. Amy actually is the visa guru right now.
Oh man. So we typically reserve visas for high-level talent. We're talking O1 and O2 category. So those are people who are exceptional in their field, you know, supervisors, 10 plus years of experience. We also have been known to host a J1, depending on how that situation plays out. There's been a bit of a political change to that system. So folks who have not had the opportunity to study in the US or work for a US company are eligible for J1s. And then we do host interns that are on OPT or the STEM extension. That gets a little bit challenging because some positions or some programs are not eligible for the STEM extension, which means that you're only really able to work for a maximum of 12 months. And then it becomes tricky to find an alternative visa for you to be able to get on and stay working. But that's a bridge we cross when we get there. But yes, we do host international students, both OPT eligible as well as overseas. We typically just have on-site internships, however. We don't do remote programs just because so much of the experience is about being in the studio itself. So with COVID, we have decided to postpone our internships from the summer of 2020 to the summer of 2021. So we have our fingers crossed that we'll be able to have people on site by then.
Yeah, and with the OPT, it really depends. Like if you've graduated and you've applied for an internship and you've already graduated for 6 months and had your EAD card for 6 months, and if you are not eligible for STEM, that's kind of a horrible situation for you, because in order to qualify for the next level visa, which is an O2, you have to have worked at one place with a person that you are supporting for at least a year, 12 months. So, you know, to all of you that are OPT and may not have STEM extensions, if you can get a job and stay in that job, if they will sponsor an O2 for at least a year, don't hop around because you are really screwing yourself. Try to stay in one place, and then you can get an O2, and that will really help you.
Make sure you're doing your research when it comes to visas. Things are constantly changing, and the best thing you can do is know exactly what kind of visa you're on, how long you have, so that way we can have that conversation when it gets there.
A lot of woohoos and yeses in the chat.
Yay!
We want, you know, people from all over the world. We have people from all over the world, and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I think we've had employees from 6 of the 7 continents. I'm pretty sure.
Ton of countries.
Yeah.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask that are not in the chat now? One person's microphone unmuted.
I have a quick question. Just regarding how. Okay, so it's 2 questions, I guess, real quick. Can freshmen or sophomores apply for internships, or is it like from juniors and up? No.
It's about a level of skill and availability post-graduation. If we find that you're really talented, but you still have 3.5 more years of school, that's a long time to wait for you to graduate. So we do typically put emphasis on juniors, especially seniors or recent graduates.
And the second one,
you don't even have to have a degree either.
True. You do not have to have a degree.
So if you guys end up leaving because maybe financial issues or something and you didn't graduate, you can still apply.
Okay, so we have one that circles back to OPT. Can we participate in internships during OPT?
Yes, that would be the time you can participate.
Yeah, I think there's a student visa during, like if you're a junior, you are allowed to intern, and that's a different thing. But once you graduate, right before you graduate, you need to apply for the OPT so that you can get it in time to be able to intern. Because if you don't have your OPT or your EAD card, sometimes that can take months to get. Then, you know, we have to wait for you. We waited for people, but it's really inconvenient because you lose out on that whole group intern feeling because you're coming in way late in the process. So just make sure you are on top of applying for your OPT.
I have a quick maybe a little too specific question, so I'm not sure if you have the exact answer for it. I have more of a focus in character design and visual development, so I'm wondering if, like in all the portfolios you guys have seen, what are some things you see maybe too often or not often enough?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Character design, you don't want to be derivative. You know, you don't want to have all Disney kinds of characters. You know, I see so many people that kind of default towards that, or very gamey or very anime. You know, you want to have a variety, definitely. You want to be able to do all of those kinds of styles, but you know, specifically for LAIKA, if you want to be at LAIKA, you need to look at the characters and the work and the behind the scenes that we did and try to meet that style. Every studio has their style. And, you know, if you're applying with only Disney work, we're not going to choose you because we're not Disney, you know. The more original you can be, the better. And for character specifically, you need to have turns, facial expressions, poses. And I'm not talking like the poses that are like this, you know, I'm talking like really intricate, interesting poses. Thibaut Leclerc is one of the best we have. So if you can look him up, I would say that is your inspiration. And for story, it's Remy Crasasso. So those two, I would say, are the bar.
Could you repeat the character artist again one more
Here,
time?
I'm going to share his name in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And this is actually something I've seen kind of vary from studios as well. Is I know sometimes for feature, character work can be extremely fast, especially if directors or art department heads are wanting like a lot of quick changes. Is it better to see a lot more sketchier, quicker stuff in portfolios than finished painted illustrations for characters?
Yeah, we'd love to see process. And you can put your process in there. Like, I mean, for story, we like to see the rough boards too, you know, and for characters, I would say, but you want to show that you can finish. I think the most important thing about character design is what they look for is originality and that you can meet a style. So versatility. You will learn how to be quicker as you work more. As an intern, they know that you're not going to be the quickest person in the world unless you're just some kind of like absolute genius. So they know what skills you're coming with, what experience you're coming with. What they're looking for is being able to hit a style, being able to really take notes, and the draftsmanship skills and those technical things.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
All right, so we're gonna have to start winding down here. If anybody has one last question, you can fight amongst yourselves to ask it. One question for the group, then we can do that. I hear deathly silence, so I don't know if the battle is raging right now.
Yo me yo.
Okay, one question: best movie you guys have watched during quarantine?
Ooh,
Oh, I like that question.
that's a great question. We just watched Antebellum last night.
Did you watch that? Is that good?
Really good. It was really good.
Oh, I want to see that.
Highly recommend.
Okay.
There we have it, you guys. Presentation. I will say before we wrap up, LAIKA is going to be, I know Amy's going to be there. I don't know if Angela will, but they're going to be at Fall Internship Fair. So, you know, sign up for sessions, see if more sessions are added, and just kind of see if you guys can connect with them a little bit more. So with that in mind, thank you very much to Amy and Angela. It was fantastic to hear from you guys. And I hope you guys all got some great answers to your questions and learned some more.
Yeah.
Connect with
Thank
them.
you guys. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We're available.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing all your work.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.